Hey, everybody, welcome to Pink Shade. It's Monday, and because we don't have any more Love After Lockup until I don't know when, 2 more weeks, I'm excited because on Mondays I'm getting to put out some vintage type materials. And this is an episode of Then and Now, which means I'm going to talk about an episode I did of Payne in the Pod from way back when. And I've got Ben from Watch What Crappens to discuss it with me. This episode that we're discussing from Payne in the Pod was May 29th, 2019, episode 39. It's the last time I was in LA before this most recent trip.
Wow, and the world has changed, Mary Payne. Can you
Yeah,
like everything is listening to it back? It's like, wow, that we were so innocent. We didn't know we had a global pandemic coming around the corner
I
and
know. I
everything would be
know.
different.
I know. Since then, I've gotten two dogs.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, we had a global pandemic. You guys won the iHeart Best Podcast Award. All
Yeah, we
these things
that's
happened.
yeah, I mean, really, I think I like the order there. Dogs,
Yeah.
global pandemic,
Uh-huh.
iHeart Award.
That's right. That's right.
Those are the if you need to catch up over the past 5 years, those are the three takeaways.
Um, because this is video, we should address the elephant in the room, which is me.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You don't have to leave that up.
hi Mary, how are you? So good to see you. Um, the I put up a picture of Mary behind me. I just took it from X, formerly known as Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
because I was supposed to see you in Los Angeles, and I had to back out because we were Ronnie and I were recording a million shows, including Vanderpump Rules and The Valley, back to back. And
Okay.
those are big episodes. And we wound up spending like 2 hours on each one of them. And then we
As you
also had to
do.
do Below Deck. Actually, we did 3 episodes. I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember what exactly we did, but I just know we were at our desks recording for hours. And
Yes.
I had to bail on you and our little reunion. And then you had to go back east.
And here we are. But here's the truth is that Ingrid and I were on our way back. We'd gone to Venice and we're on our way back. And you sent me that text. I was like, did I write any notes for that? Because I was so, we were just going and going and going for 8 days. And I had the schedule down to the T, but everything that got on the schedule didn't always make it to my calendar and then
Mm,
transfer time zones. So I don't even know if it literally turned out to be perfect.
yeah.
Not that I didn't get to see you, but perfect because maybe I would have had to wing it because my notes wouldn't have been complete. So now my notes are complete, and here we
Now your
are.
notes are complete. And by the way,
Yes.
when you said, "Oh, I'm coming back from Venice right now," I was also like, "Oh, you are a ways out because there's no way, as you may know from watching Vanderpump Rules, Venice is right next to Marina Del Rey,
Yes.
and it is never a hop, skip, and a jump away." I was like, "You have a journey ahead of you to get back to your hotel." Was it a journey for you, or was it okay?
I would have made it by the skin of my teeth because when I
Mm.
tell you that we didn't realize everywhere we went in LA was an hour. Everywhere. It was like, "Oh, you just come to
Especially
my house, the
Venice.
Valley, or come to this." And it's like, "Oh, it's 5 miles." Psh. And then I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
no, it's gonna take us an hour." Everything was an hour, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
One of the things, one of the perks of living in Los Angeles is when friends come in from out of town, and they
Mhm.
pull that move all the time. They're like, "Hey, so we're still gonna meet in like 20 minutes, right? I'm just at Santa Monica, so I'll be there in like 20 minutes." Like, "Oh, I'll see you in an hour. I'll see you in an hour." Every single time.
It's funny you said that about Sheena because, at some point we were driving along, and as you do, you're just like, "Oh, look at there's that, there's this, there's Laurel Hardware that people talk about, or something." And as we were driving by, I look over and I go, "Oh my God, it's Tucker Madero. Rob kissed a waitress at Tucker Madera. He never kisses anybody."
Oh my God, Taco Madera. Isn't
I
it
started
so
laughing so
fun?
hard. Yeah, I was like, "Look at that," because I had a chat with Mark L. Wahlberg, not to be
Oh,
confused with the other Mark Wahlberg,
correct.
Mark
Yeah.
L. that hosts Temptation Island. And I did a sit down for his podcast called Bonfire Talks and was over at Patrick Hickey's house for that. And he was like, something weird. In real life, I'm friends with um, Rob Parks Valletta. And I was like, that's crazy. He goes, yeah. So I just had him on the podcast. He goes, but I just know him as my friend that I play basketball with. I go, well, he was on Vanderpump Rules. He goes, yeah, he told me that with Sheena, who's the boyfriend. I go, yeah, Madison Marie Parks Valletta. Everybody knows that. Yes.
Rob had what, one season on the show, but it was like the season to be on. It was right. What are the standout seasons of Vanderpump Rules? I think well, four seasons, one and two. One was
Hmm.
like wow. Two
So
was
good.
even wilder. And then was it season six? Was the Rob? What season six was the? I think was the Jax cheated on Brittany with Faith season, right? And I think that's where Rob was on that, and that was like that was such a white hot season. The show, it was almost too good for the show because then the show suffered for the next two or three seasons. It could not get past, like it was just too good. And then of course we had Scandival, which
Yeah.
is
I
probably
mean,
its most defining season.
Jax with Faith, while she was doing home care for an elderly woman, and he was having sex with her while an elderly woman was sleeping in the next room, was tough. It's tough
It's a
stuff.
tentpole season.
Yes.
So Rob was
Wow.
on that season, and that was
Yeah.
a great season for him to be on.
Yeah. Every time, he would say something, I was like, yes, he can hang a TV in 7 minutes. He's like, that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. It's like, yeah, you should get him over here, do some AV work for you guys. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about when you were on Payne in the Pod, my former podcast. You came to my Airbnb where I was with my old co-host Aaron,
Yes.
and I got to meet you in person. I was so starstruck. Do you know that night we were having dinner with Eliza Rosen and Countess Luann, and I talked so long to you that I had exactly 24 minutes to get ready before we had to be at Soho
That's right.
Soho House. I was trying to say, and I had 24 minutes because I talked to you. I ran into the bathroom. I was like, you'll never know somebody can get ready faster than I can. I got ready so
Wow.
fast. I didn't want to miss that Countess Luann dinner.
I I didn't realize that your other party was Eliza because now I have
Yeah.
I've met Eliza. Love her. She's great. She's
Isn't she
wonderful.
great?
Yeah.
She's great. Yeah, that's Eliza was who hooked us up with that because Eliza was friends with Countess Luann from something they had done in the reality TV world prior. So when Luann was coming to town, she asked Lisa to go to dinner, and then we tagged along. But when that dinner was like on a Friday night, because the Countess Luann show was on Saturday night, that Thursday was then the news that hit the press that she had failed a sobriety test.
Mm,
She blew
wasn't
because
your
she had
fault.
had a one mimosa, darling, after a cabaret show. And then
That's
she had,
right.
yeah, and then she had to fly after the LA show. She had to fly right back to New York. She had to go to court. She was in trouble.
Uh, it would have been great if she failed the sobriety test because of you. Like, imagine
No,
if you had been like, Luann, just have one drink. It's like no big deal. No one has to know. And then all of a sudden, it's like Mary Payne is the cause of Luann's sobriety downfall.
no, 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 no. It happened before me. It happened before me. I take no responsibility.
Okay. All right.
But she was really great. And since then, I've been trying to ride that high. Whenever I've seen her in person, remember when we had dinner? And she's like, no,
She
no,
doesn't remember you. No,
she
you
doesn't
can
remember
delete
me at
it.
all. And that's okay. You know, she's Countess Luann. She doesn't have to remember anything.
Absolutely not.
Did you go to her latest show? Has it come back to LA? Mary Fuck Kill?
Mary Fuck Kill. I haven't seen it. I think I was out of town when it came back here. It originally was going to actually uh, be the night before the Golden Crappies. So
Oh, well,
that
no
was
way
going
you
to
could have
be
gone. Too busy.
right. And that was going to be the debut or the premiere of the tour. And then I think that date got pushed back.
Uh-huh.
And so I don't remember when maybe I think it was in March that she did it out
It was
here.
a few weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, I think I was out of town for that.
Okay.
I would have because I've gone to her show twice, and I love me some Countess Luann, my favorite
Yeah.
Real Housewife.
I mean,
But did you get to see it, Mary Fuck
I
Kill
have
yet?
no, I haven't seen it. I saw the one that was in LA that I saw you at that time in 2019. And then
Yep.
later I saw a version of that same show in Wisconsin because I went to visit my podcast partner there and we went to the show there in Wisconsin. So I've seen it twice, but I think I've seen the same show twice. And she did a Christmas one here in DC,
Right.
but I think
Christmas with the Countess.
yes, I've heard this one current iteration is really good.
Oh, good. It's
Yeah.
amazing that she's been able to like really stretch out this cabaret moment. Like
Oh
she's
yeah.
still doing it,
Hmm.
touring,
She's
everything.
out there wearing those dresses, looking amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for her.
Well, when I spoke to you in May of 2019, you were telling me how you started out on Crappens was, and I didn't remember this till I re-listened to that, was started out called Housewives Hoedown.
Yeah. It was well because it wasn't a podcast back then. It was just a web show,
Okay.
and it was a web show that I hosted. And so then that's when I brought on Ronnie and Matt, and then we just had fun. And then the web show was canceled, so we're like, let's keep doing this, and we did
And
it.
what happened to Matt? Because Matt, he left, but I don't know. I don't
Right.
know. I
So
don't
he
know of
was
Matt.
Matt. So at that time, he was working at Yahoo News, which Yahoo
Mm,
News was a bigger presence in 2012, and so he got a job, I believe, at that time as an editor, and he was like, "I'm not sure if I have the time to do both these things." So it's like, why would he give up like a legit good job with Yahoo for like some podcast with like 1,000 listeners at a time when podcasts weren't even a thing. So
yeah.
he went off and did that, and then eventually he wound up working at Netflix. I don't know if he's still at Netflix. I think he is, but he was actually, I think, working the marketing department.
Wow.
But I haven't seen Matt in a few years. I know we follow each other on Instagram, and he's always doing fabulous things. He just went to Madonna the other night.
Wonderful.
I will often write little messages or little comments. I really adore Matt. And it's actually a travesty that I've not seen him in so long. So I really should try to see him because I just think he's so funny and so sharp, and
Yeah.
he has great hot takes. So I hope he's
Well,
doing well.
the next time Ronnie falls ill, you could bring him back on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
We
right.
don't want Ronnie
Ronnie
to fall
never
ill.
falls ill. Ronnie clocks in no matter what. Me, I'm like, oh, it's a little cold out. I think I have to take a sick day. He is like, will not miss a day unless he absolutely has to.
Wow. But you got sick recently. You had like your gallbladder out. That's when we were
It
at
was my
BravoCon.
appendix. My
Appendix.
appendix. My appendix.
Yes.
I had appendicitis back in October. It was wild. I was not expecting that.
And then we went to BravoCon and you were posting the funniest BravoCon stuff about how you missed it. It was gold. Gold.
Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you. That's-
Um, so you had been doing the pod Crappens for 7 years last time we talked. Now
yeah,
it's 12.
I know. I couldn't believe listening back when I said I've been doing it for 7 years. I was like, I can't believe in 2019 it had only been 7 years because it feels so long ago now that
Yeah.
when we started. But like to think that's already been 5 years since that moment
Yeah.
is wild. Like that's where it won't be too long before that interview that we did was the halfway mark of the Crappens lifespan. That it's just wild that that much time has passed.
I know. It's crazy to listen back to these things because I've done this then and now. I did it with Ryan. I did, and he had just started, and Kate Casey, and I did like Heather McDonald and Matt and Jake, and I'm going to try to get Danny back on. Just
Hmm.
like so many people in the reality world that I did this with. And I did it with other. I did like the Shrink Next Door. I did some other more serious ones because really that's just my interest is like true crime and reality TV. But gosh, when I listen back to them, I'm like, well, first of all, I'm just prepared to cringe, right? I'm prepared. It's going to be horrible. I must have been
It was
terrible.
good.
But it was really good. I was
Yeah,
like,
I was
yeah,
actually, I was like, I feel like I was more articulate back then. I was like, oh, this. I was like, I don't talk like that anymore. What happened to me? Did I just get dumber? Has like 5 years of talking about the housewives and having a global pandemic just ruined me?
yeah.
Very sad.
Well, you wouldn't be the only one. So back then, you said you guys did 5 episodes a week plus one bonus. Now, what are you doing now?
It depends. We are currently doing about 8 episodes a week.
Mhm.
It's really hard
Yes, it
because
is. There's so many
it's
shows.
there's so many shows, and there are so many considerations. We want to cover all the shows. And then if we don't cover a show, we get a lot of people who say, why aren't you covering the show? You should cover it. It's so good. I know. Just trust us. You'd really have so much fun. And we kind of can't resist. We're very much like Sheena. We're people pleasers. And so then
Yeah.
we go and we cover it. But it's hard. Like we're trying to find a balance because we don't want to burn ourselves out. And I sometimes worry that in the pursuit of trying to make all these people happy in terms of making sure we give content and everyone's shows are being represented on our shows, that we are kind of destroying ourselves because it's
Yeah. You
so
burn out.
much
Yeah.
work. But it's also really fun work, and we're pretty
Yeah.
blessed
Yeah.
that's our biggest hardship.
Yeah, but it is a lot. You don't want to burn yourself out because you want to be,
Yeah, so far
Give
so good. We're
so far.
okay,
This was,
but
dude, they're going
it's
to add
rough.
in when they do run three housewives at a time. I remember, I imagine that's pretty hard because sometimes you'll
It,
just have one at a time.
yeah, it gets hard with there are certain shows that are just like harder, just the way that they're edited. Certain shows have lots of micro scenes, like
Mm,
and you don't you start writing notes and you don't know is this like a full scene, and it turns out it's just like a 1 second scene, and
yeah,
it could
yeah.
be very rigorous. Yeah,
Because I do a lot of that with the 90-day stuff. I will put on the episode one time through just because if it's, especially if it's a 2 hour 90-day show, which they do to us sometimes, I'm like, I can't sit here
it's a
and
lot,
then 2 hours will take me four because I won't know what's important, you know?
right?
Nothing, by the way, none of it's important,
None of it.
but just like, I don't want to like take notes and it was just like a one-off scene. That happens to me all the freaking time too. I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
thought this is going to be great. They're roller skating, but no, it was like a interstitial, you know?
It was an interstitial.
Yeah.
And so like Summer House is like that a lot. Summer House and Below Deck can really be rigorous like that in terms of like you think it's an important scene and then it's just like a throwaway. Um, but yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to you want to honor what people want to hear from, and it's because you want to make them happy, and also
Yeah.
like that's good for our numbers too if you're
Yeah.
providing content for shows that people are watching. But now it's like, for instance, people are saying, oh, you should do Vanderpump Villa, and it's like, oh, but it's like it's a whole other show, and it's like I think
Have
it's
you
hard.
watched it? Have you even I haven't watched it.
I started watching it. I literally only am in like a minute into it, and it's so ridiculous. It's like it
Yeah.
doesn't. It's ridiculous,
Okay.
but I don't know if it's gonna be actually any good.
Yeah. Well, I think that we all kind of had medium hopes for the Valley, and that's turned out to be great. So,
Valley, wow,
yeah, I think it's
wow, it's
good.
so good. Yeah,
Yeah. I was like, I was thinking, no, this is going to be dumb. But right when it came on, I was like, well,
out
Jackson's
of the
still
gates, it was good.
Jackson, and it was out of the gate. And then we've got Jesse, who they're trying to make into an alcoholic right away. I like it when they
Good.
label him right away. Yeah.
They should because he's awful.
He's
He
real
is
bad.
awful.
The backhand this week when his wife was talking and he
Wow,
put his hand
so
up,
bad.
it's a little bit Tom Girardi-esque, right? Like, Erica, I'm
Very.
speaking.
It is very much so. Very much so.
Oh, oh. Now you guys also were doing back in the day when we talked, Winter is Crappening about Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
How did you put out like every Game of Thrones season for that or just like a few towards the end?
No, we only did at the end for the last season of Game of Thrones because I hadn't been watching it. And then I finally decided to binge because I wanted to be there for the last season. So then,
Yeah.
since I was now caught up and I knew Game of Thrones, we decided we would do some Game of Thrones coverage because it's kind of funny. It's a different type of show for us.
Mhm.
We also knew we could reach a new audience with it.
Right.
It's really important for us to keep growing, and also for people to see that we can do beyond Bravo. Like we really view ourselves as a comedy podcast through the lens of TV and specifically Bravo, but we can really recap and have fun with all sorts of different shows. And so that was a really fun experiment for us, especially because all the other Game of Thrones recaps are very serious, very, very serious. And we're just like, she's too bad. So, and then we brought it back for House of the Dragon. And then we literally just did a preview for the House of the Dragon. We recapped the trailer for House of the Dragon season 2. So
Yeah.
we are going to bring it back with that season as well. And it's really fun to apply like the Watcher Crappens voice
Yeah.
to fantasy, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've never watched one episode of Game of Thrones. I'm just like, are there people having sex with dragons? Like, what's happening on this show? I've never.
Sometimes it feels like that. It's really good. It's a really good
I was
show.
told nobody had sex with the dragon, but somebody did give birth to a dragon.
There what yes. And I remember when that episode first aired, it was season 1, and I remember I was at home at my parents' house and I was in my bedroom and my parents were watching it, and I could just it was so loud and I just heard all these strange noises, and then I heard my mom say, "So she gave birth to a dragon? This show is weird."
Your mom's right. Your mom is right.
Yeah.
Another thing we said that was interesting that I think has changed for you guys because you were saying at the time you got no screeners,
No screeners.
and now you guys get screeners. Ronnie claims that you guys have to beg for them, but I think they should be grateful that they're giving you screeners.
It was so funny to hear that. I forgot that there was a time where we only got the Dallas screener. I remember I said that on the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Now actually Bravo is so they're so chill. They've been giving us a ton of screeners. They are it's every now and then there'll be a show that they're not allowed to because you know that there's some weird corporate mandate. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why is this the show? Why is this the show that we have
Yeah.
to be like seriously like we have to like really twist an arm to get a screener for? But honestly they've really come around to understanding, I think, the role of podcasts and the Bravo content ecosystem, and it's been really actually very helpful to us for putting together our shows.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you were saying like you guys have to record a lot at the beginning of the week of whatever was happening at that time. Maybe something was on
Mhm.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, so you're heavy at the beginning of the week. Um, and then you were saying that you wanted to cover Mexican dynasties, but you didn't. And then I was like, I thought maybe they did cover Mexican dynasties.
We did like one or two episodes, maybe even three,
Yeah.
but like that was another time where there was a surge of content. And what happens is that you have all these shows, and a lot of times it's really hard to sometimes cover the small shows or the shows that we love. Like Ronnie and I both love Top Chef.
Mm,
We're not recapping it this year, largely because Padma's not on there anymore, and that was like
mm.
our that was where we had all our fun was pretending to be Padma. But like even when Padma was on, it was like that was our absolute favorite show to do. But sometimes we couldn't do it because maybe it wouldn't like Top Chef doesn't get as high numbers as other shows, or like if
Yeah.
we do that, then we have to not cover another show, and if we don't cover that show, then it's like our inboxes are full of people, and it becomes like that balance of like doing what we want to do and how we want to have fun as podcasters versus also not wanting to have like hate mail. No one was giving
Right.
hate mail, but
No.
it's like, oh my God, it's another email. Like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And I'm like, sometimes it's just easier to say, okay, let's put what we want to do to the side and like, let's give the people what they want.
Yeah. Yeah, I do know. I get it. Um, Also, I forgot about we talked about this. I forgot about Bravo Home channel with Get a Room with
Yeah.
Carson and Tom. Remember how great that show
That
was?
show was so good, and I still back what I said, which is that I hope they bring it back. They
Yeah.
do like those two guys have such a carefree, easy dynamic, great
Yeah.
banter. I love what they did. That show was excellent.
It was so good, and I've completely forgotten about it till I listened back, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." I said on the thing, I was like, "I would just watch them riding around in a car." I was like,
Yeah.
"That they were, like, so fun together."
Yeah,
Yeah.
that show is wonderful. I don't know why I don't know what was going on during that period of Bravo when they were doing the Bravo home thing. I think there was like
Yeah.
one show that got like a little bit of traction, the Backyard Envy. I think was that
Yes.
what it was called, which was neat. But I think Get a Room with Carson and Tom was that was it. Like that was a great show. I would love if they brought back a lot of their design shows. I
I
loved Million
know.
Dollar Designers back in or Decorators, Million Dollar Decorators.
Yes, was that Martin,
Martin Lawrence Bullard.
was it Ballard?
That
Yeah,
was
yeah,
a
yeah.
fantastic show. I also really enjoyed Top Design. The first season was like a little wonky, but season two was great. I really love that, and I feel like actually that's a show that would maybe do really well now in
Yeah.
2024. I think that like a lot of people love watching those architectural digest videos.
Yes, I do.
The world of Pinterest has flourished since the world of top design. So I think that people may be more open to like a show like that. HGTV is so much more of a thing than it was in
Mhm.
2007
Mhm.
or whenever that show's on. So I would love top design to come back.
Gosh. Who could we talk to?
I
How do
know.
we
Well, that's why I'm
Yeah.
trying to speak it into the universe now
Oh,
and
okay.
get
Okay. Um, so we talked about also about your note writing process and how you're so um particular about the timeline and how like if
yeah.
Ronnie skips ahead, you're like, wait, you forgot this line was here. And I think you're still that way because I think your episodes are very meticulous on the timeline. I don't think you guys skip ahead or forget anything hardly ever.
We have yeah, it's gotten like we are very meticulous. That's why some of our episodes are just getting so long because we're just kind
Yeah.
of talking about every single little thing. Like we have somehow gotten worse at editing. ourselves. You would think that's something you'd get better at as you go along. But sometimes we'll do a nice 1 hour episode. You know, we did
Yeah.
Summer House coming out tomorrow. That's gonna be. I think that's just a nice clean 1 hour, which is
Mm,
amazing because it's Summer House.
amazing. Yeah.
So yeah, I think part of it also is like we just are a little bit more aligned in terms of I think like understanding where we each of us are in the documents and all that stuff. So that's really helpful.
It's interesting that you both take notes on the same show because when I had a partner, we would split. Like, I'm going to do Love After Lockup. You're going to do 90 Day.
We've started to split it up actually a little bit because we're like,
Yeah.
why are we doing this? So sometimes Ronnie will do a show, sometimes I'll do a show, sometimes he'll do the first half, I'll do the second half, and then
Mm,
sometimes we still just do our own notes. So that is like really that has helped a lot, like
yeah.
a lot. So, but and that's also when we have the same document to work off of. That's another way that we stay more in sync
Yes. Yes.
with our notes and if he skips ahead, I know where in the document he skipped ahead to, as opposed to me
Yeah.
having to like coordinate with my own notes.
Yeah. We do a lot because the shows that we cover do a lot of like couples, right? It's like 90 Day
Hmm.
or Love After Lockup. It's couples. So it's very easy if I have Kimberly of Date with Dateline coming in with me to do notes. I'll be like, okay, you get these three couples. I'll do these three couples.
That's
And that makes
nice.
it easy, but that's not the case on our housewife shows. You got to go scene by scene. You can't go person by person.
Yeah, it's notes are it notes are the hardest part.
I agree.
The talking is there's sometimes where like we sit down and I'm like, oh my God, we have so much to get through today. But like ultimately it's fun, and it's always fun to be joking with Ronnie, and like we always have fun on the air. The hard part is when you have to sit down and you're just like typing and typing and typing and typing and typing and
Yes, yes.
rewinding and typing and rewinding and typing. It's
Yeah,
it's fun.
Jake Anthony, he takes notes in shorthand like an old-timey
Wow.
secretary. He takes all his notes in shorthand.
Wow. I don't even know. I am very impressed by that.
Aren't you impressed? I was like, why don't you just tippity type it on your laptop while you're watching TV? He goes, it's so much easier for me to write it in shorthand. I was like, what are you, a 1950s secretary on Mad Men with your shorthand?
It must be great
Crazy?
to know shorthand. It'd be great
Yeah.
to learn stenography and to have one of those machines. I don't
Yes.
even know how those machines work. I have no idea.
I don't either. It's only got like 11 keys on it.
Yeah, and they're just like tap, 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 tap. That probably would be the best. That
Yes,
would be
my cousin is a court reporter. Maybe she could teach me her
really.
ways. Yeah.
That would honestly, it probably would. Could you imagine? That would be a game changing situation. Just like, you know,
Yeah. Why don't we come up with that? We'll sell next year at Podcast Movement Conference. We'll sell a course, stenography for podcasting.
that I would take it.
TM trademark.
Yeah.
Mary Payne and
Trim
Ben
it,
don't
trademark
don't
it.
no don't take it. It's ours. So okay. So you also said at that time that Real Housewives of New York. Now that's Real Housewives of New York OG. It was your
OG.
favorite show to watch, favorite shows to recap. Now RIP, it's gone.
Yeah.
Were you feeling similar love with the new cast? I mean, it's
No, no,
impossible to
no.
replicate that old cast. Impossible.
It's not even that I was like I don't feel the similar love, but I really like it as its own thing. It's like I don't feel the love, and I honestly don't like it very much. I think Jessel is a standout. I love Jessel. I think
Yeah.
Jenna is fascinating in that she's just a totally different type of Real Housewife.
Yes.
But I find Erin is she's sort of like a blah, like she's not great. Sai is actually unpleasant to watch. I find that
Agree.
Bree is has moments where I find her to be very appealing and interesting,
Hmm.
but she has a lot of moments where I find her to be kind of irritating in this like yeah, let's put up my ass. What? You're like it's like exhausting. It's like the same thing. It's very exhausting. And Uba, like I like Uba, but like
She
there's
didn't
something
share anything. She
inaccessible.
had a whole boyfriend that whole time.
Yeah, there's something a little inaccessible about her. She's like, aren't I wacky? I took a can of coconut milk. But I think really, I think this group could be really good. But I think that my issue with the new Real Housewives of New York is that Bravo, I think, tried to steer the ship away, obviously, from the Ramona Singersness of the original, right?
Yes,
Like,
of
which is
course.
just like problematic, older white lady, like the ills of our society, right? Tried to
Right.
steer away from that, and then gave us this show, which was trying to be more like, look at these fabulous women that you just want to hang out with. They're involved in fashion and more fashion. They're fabulous. They know about
Yeah.
restaurants, they
Hmm.
know about Instagram, and they know fabulous people. And it's like, I don't know.
Oh,
I,
that's so funny.
I just give me some delusion. Like I kind of want like old, deluded, rich women from the Upper East Side still, It doesn't have to be Ramona, but like
Right.
I don't need to I don't need to feel like, wow, I'm like in size brownstone right now. Like I'm so chic.
I feel like with the Ramona of it all, it doesn't have to be her necessarily, but I did enjoy her being awful to the staff on the Ultimate Girls Trip.
Yeah. I
Being,
think
it's
Ramona
just, it's her
is a
brand.
terrible person. She's a terrible
Yeah.
person. And the one thing that's happened since our last since 2019 is that we have learned the perils of giving terrible people platforms in this world, which is one of the reasons why there has been sort of like a shift happening on Bravo. We don't want to give people like Ramona or Vicky Gunvalson
Mm,
platforms.
hmm.
So that's good that we're not giving platforms. But we also have to reconcile with this genre of we are watching shows about often spoiled, deluded, sheltered people. And how
Yeah.
did these people, like, what's it like for these people to live? Like, how do they get through life? Like, that's what the show is built off of. Like, what is it like behind the gated community, behind the gates of Orange County, and watching them just like casually spending thousands of dollars here and berating someone there. So we're not trying to be friends with these people. We're not trying
Right.
to embrace them. We're seeing like, how does this totally dysfunctional person exist in our society? And so while I think we shouldn't have terrible people shouldn't have platforms, I think that we can't fully neuter our shows because of
Yeah.
that.
Because they do exist. These people do exist in the
Yeah, and
world.
I think
Yeah.
that it's sometimes it's also good to make sure we see these people being terrible so we can make fun of them and, tell ourselves how not to act.
Also, don't act that way. Yes.
Don't act that way.
You did say also that you didn't like recapping Married to Medicine because you didn't like to watch Quad and Dr. Gregory fighting. Now, I've never been a big fan of Married to Medicine. I mean, I've watched it here and there, but I do know that they're divorced now, right?
Yes. So Marriage Medicine is such an interesting show because it's by and large a really good show.
Hmm.
But I
Everybody loves that
find,
show.
yeah, and there's like some great casting. I mean, Dr. Heavenly,
Mm.
Simone, Quad, Toya, Dr. Jackie, like these are great. Like they are like these are great reality stars. This is a great cast. When Mariah was on it, Mariah was awful, but she was great.
Hmm.
But my issue with the show has actually become that it sort of does the same thing every year. And given that
Hmm.
all these shows pretty much do that, like this one, it's always a couple's trip to some sandy place where they sort of do a weird kind of couples therapy thing. And I don't know, like I feel like the show always starts off really strongly and then kind of peters out over the course of the season. So this season, I actually haven't finished it. I loved the first half of this season. I thought it was great. I thought it was the best season they've had in years.
And they've had, and Phaedra was on, right?
Phaedra was on, yeah,
Yeah.
but we just
So,
didn't. I think we recapped a few episodes, but again, it was like a high traffic time for us. We have like
yeah.
these Real Housewives shows. We have like Vanderpump Rules. It's hard to fit
Did you
everyone
guys
in.
extensively cover any of the other Real Housewives? Dubai notwithstanding, I didn't even watch that one, but the ones, the Australian ones and all that. Did you ever cover any of those as like a one off?
We used to cover Melrose. I'm not Melrose. Melbourne,
Hmm.
as like we did like a weekly check in with that. Like we did,
Really?
we fully covered. I think the first three seasons because those were they put them on Bravo. We
Yeah.
also did Cheshire. I think the first season of Cheshire. Um, We also did Auckland. Was it Auckland? The one in New Zealand, Real Housewives of
Wow.
Auckland. That was actually great. Although that one had a very dark turn. Really, a really tough episode in the middle. That was like someone used the N word and it was a thing.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah. And we even actually, I think like last year or something, Bravo randomly started airing the Real Housewives of Durban, and so we did an episode of that.
Where's that? What country?
South Africa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Wow.
So we've
Mm.
definitely gone international. We never did Toronto, we never did Vancouver, and we never did
You're telling me
Sydney.
shows I didn't even know existed. I didn't know some of these shows existed. I had no idea.
Yeah. Hmm.
Wow. Um, you also said that the most challenging voice you've ever done was Candy
Yeah.
for obvious reasons, but have you found anybody since then that has been more challenging than Candy?
Let's see. Well, I stopped doing Candy's voice because I felt like the joke was always that like Candy's voice was like high and then low, whatever, and it was like always
Yes.
so hard. And so I had this whole thing, this voice I would do that go high and low, whatever. But like for a while, I think everyone who listened to the podcast knew that that was the joke about it. But I think what happened is that people started to come in, and if you don't know the context of it, it actually sounds improper and it sounds problematic because it sounds like I'm trying to do like just like black accent, not black accent, but like a black voice, and I'm a white man.
Yeah.
And at a certain
Yeah.
point, it's like you know what, this is not really appropriate anymore. Like I've made the joke. The joke has been made. I've
Yeah.
stated it. Let's not let's retire this.
Okay.
In terms of like other hard, there are a lot of really strange hard voices. Let's see, who are some people? Just going down like the New Yorker women in New York, I've had a pretty easy time with. People on Dallas, I feel like I had an easy time with. Um, Potomac, maybe there was. Potomac has actually some really fun voices to do on there. Those are all very doable. I know there's someone who is like very, very difficult for me.
Is
And I'm,
is it anybody on Beverly Hills?
let's see. So Beverly Hills has Sutton, it has Kyle, it has. There's got to be someone that I definitely struggle with. I'm just like blanking right now. Like Jax. I don't have a good voice for Jax actually. I don't have a
I'm
voice
trying
for
to think. Does
Jax.
Jax have a he
He
just
sort of has like a little bit of a
uh.
Michigander kind of voice.
You know what I was thinking about today about Sandoval? Because there's so many different ways to do Sandoval. Like the way you guys do it's a little like, dude. And the way AB Phillips does it is like he's a petulant teenager with braces. She's just like, God, mom. That she does him like that, which is so different, but so funny. And somebody else. Okay, so I went to Bravo Radio Indie Theater in New York,
Hmm.
and it was Scandival was the last episode, is what they did, and Cheyenne Jackson played Tom Sandoval. Like, I mean,
Mm,
Tom Sandoval could lay down and die now. I mean, it's like how perfect.
yeah.
But he just did it so like emo, like you just don't know, man. There's just, and I was thinking, there's three really different ways to do some Tom Sandoval, and they're all correct.
What a complex man.
What
You know what? Vicky
complex.
Gumbelson is a hard one for me, by the way. Vicky Gumbelson, I've never been able to do her voice properly.
It's all in the
I
nose,
sort of,
right?
yeah, I do sort of like this voice like this, which is like actually just me kind of impersonating Ronnie. Sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes I
It's
just do
also a little bit
Ronnie's.
like Margaret Joseph's, right? They're both kind of up in that nose.
Right, but like Michael Joseph's, I can do. Like I somehow can like get there. But like with Vicky, it's like she has this, Midwestern Chicago accent. It's not really Northern Midwest, right? That's more Minnesota. And she's like, I try to do it, but like it's hard. And then when she screams, her voice changes. And
And she screams
I
a
think it's,
lot.
I think, I think, I think Vicky is probably the hardest one outside of Candy.
It's another thing I thought of the other day, just out of the blue, kind of revisiting this. I was thinking about when we were first able to do memojis on our phone, and Kelly Dodd sent that whole thing to Vicky as a pig.
Yes, yes. Kelly
Wow.
Dodd.
Mm. She'll
Wow,
never be on TV again, I don't think. Well, they send her on a girls' trip, man. That'll be a nightmare.
they should.
um, so then we also relived my stalking of you in DC after the
Yes.
show, and you didn't enjoy it, but you did come on, so it worked.
No, I think I just at that moment. I remember specifically we were walking to that bar. I remember that
Hmm.
bar. It was after the 9:30 club. And you're like,
Yeah,
hi, I'm Mary Payne. And I was like, whoa, whoa. But I'm glad you said hi because now I know Mary Payne. I know Mary Payne Gilbert. And that's, to know you is to love you, right? Is that
that's
the
right.
expression?
Well, sure. You guys have no choice
You
now. I'm
hustled.
just
You were
like,
hustling. You were a big hustler in the beginning there. You were like, I'm starting my podcast. And you were knocking on all the doors and you did what
yeah,
you had to do, you know?
I did. I did. You know what I found when I was doing that podcast was if my producer would reach out to somebody like the guy that did the Shrink Next Door or like a big podcast like that, if New York Times, backed podcast, Bloomberg, and all this, they wouldn't reply. But if I reached out myself from like my personal email, people would always reply.
Yeah.
So I was like, you just stop writing them and let me write them. And because it's not coming from like an official email, it's just coming from mine. And somehow that really worked. And I don't know
Hmm.
why, if it's because people like felt bad saying no to my face. They didn't care if they didn't like reply to a producer.
Right.
But that's what sometimes people are like, oh, how do you get guests and stuff? I go, you just literally bug them until
Just
they
gotta
say
bug
yes.
them.
Just got to
Yeah.
bug
Well,
them. Yeah,
what's nice about our podcast is that we actually really don't often have guests at all, which
I
means we
know.
don't have to do that whole rigmarole. Um, but like when it comes to Golden Crappies, oh, what a nightmare. I'm
So
so glad
fun.
we're, no, the Crappies are great, but like when you have to like, it's like herding cats, just like trying to get people to show up at a place. So, like for the podcast that have to book guests every single week,
Hmm.
like my hat is off to you because that is hard work.
It is because you can also, somebody could drop out and you're like, okay, an episode has to go out tomorrow. And now I
Solo
have no
time.
one. And no, I cannot. I've only done solo like one time ever. It's just that's impossible. It's so hard for me because I feel, first of all, I have to turn the video off, right? Because I can't be looking at myself talking to myself because then I get distracted. And then if I'm just talking and have looking around, then it's not for me. I have to have somebody to talk to.
I always think that I couldn't do a solo podcast, but then I just am like, sometimes I'll be doing, talking like this, and I'm like, I just monologued for 2 minutes straight. I just talked. I just talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. I could definitely, I could definitely do it solo. I'm barely letting someone else have a word in edgewise.
That's not true, but I think that both you and Ronnie would be fine if you ever were like at the last minute and had to do a solo. I think you'd be great.
He's done a few solo episodes. What they're
Oh
like
yeah.
appendix. He will. He is wild. He will when he has to do a solo episode. He like he does like a whole thing. He creates like an alter ego named Nancy DeBobo, and
Oh
he like
yes.
interviews himself. It's wild what he does. I'm impressed.
God, you guys are both so talented.
Thank you.
So we also talked about the listeners, how they're right in your ears, right? So if you see a
Yeah.
movie, it's this way, a TV show, it's this way, the podcast is different. And we had a listener meet up this weekend in LA. And it is interesting that what the listeners will tell you is, I feel like I know you, but you don't know me.
Right.
And I'll say, yeah, I get it because I feel that way. And I said this in 2019. I'll still say it now. I feel that way. And my go-to was always Karen Kilgariff. I'm always like, I feel like Karen Kilgariff is my best friend. She doesn't know me. I can't get her team to even answer an email to do an interview.
You know,
Like, I,
I
I,
just saw her last month at the iHeart Awards. And you know what she told me?
she wanted
I
to come
think
on my
Mary
podcast.
Payne is my best friend.
See, see, yeah. I asked
No,
Ronnie about.
I didn't talk to her at all.
Well, I asked Ronnie about when you guys. I was like, "Are you friends with her now? Can you put me in touch?" And Ronnie goes, "No, we didn't
No.
speak to her. We do know Georgia, but we didn't talk to her."
Yeah, we didn't
Um,
talk.
so,
Not for any
but I
sort of
feel
beef. We
like
just didn't talk.
no, no, you didn't have a fight. No. But that's how
I
I feel about
wish.
people being in my ears. I feel like I know them.
I feel that way too. I don't remember. Did I say this on the podcast about how I listen to podcasts too? So my thing is this: after we're done, like the only podcasts I listen to basically are board game podcasts. I do not
Hmm.
listen to any pop culture podcasts
Yeah.
because I don't know, we talk about it for hours and hours and hours, and I when we're done recording, I kind of like to dive into my hobbies, which is
You're right.
these days it's board gaming, or now I'm like picking up sewing. And so
And
for
cooking.
me,
You've got, yeah.
and cooking. And so for me, I really enjoy podcasts that like help me learn more about the hobby and like whatever
Mm,
hobby, or like I'll learn about new games that are out, or people's experiences playing games, or I'll learn about new cookbooks or things like that. So I love using podcasts for that. So I don't necessarily need to go to a podcast to just dive deeper into something I just spent 3 hours talking about.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's
Right.
no disrespect, to our community. It's like okay, it's like I'm off work in a certain way. It's like it's my release.
Yeah.
And so what I'm trying to say here is that so I listen to these like board game podcasts, and I listen to them week in week out, and they talk about their games they play, and I'm like, oh, and I feel like I'm their friend.
Yes.
I'm like like if I'm in their same city, I'm like we're gonna play a board game together, right? Like that's gonna happen, right?
They
Is it not
also
gonna
think
happen?
they also, if they knew that you listened, they'd probably be thrilled and want you to come on their podcast. Yeah.
I'd like to think that, but the board game community is a whole other community. I no one cares that I have Watch What Crappens in the board game community. You know,
I bet there's some Housewives crossover there, don't you think?
there are a few small Housewives crossovers, but it's not huge. But I do have a side board game podcast, and you know, get I have a little bit of credibility from that in the board game community, but
Would
it's
you
not
have
like
it
Watch What
currently a
Crappens.
side board game podcast?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
What's it
I
called?
joined it's called Game Brain. It's a podcast that I joined. It's not one that I started.
Okay.
So there was like a game group that I joined a few years ago. Maybe since I think it actually was another thing that happened since
You
2019.
you mentioned the Game Brain podcast as one that you listened to in
Oh,
2019. Yeah.
well, guess what? Not I guess at that point I was a listener, and
Yeah.
then I managed to weasel my way into their group and then become one of the co-hosts of that podcast. So
Wow.
I had my Saltburn moment with Game Brain.
I didn't see Saltburn because once Matt told me about some of the scenes, I was like, I don't think that's for me.
It's not great, to be honest, but
I think there's
the
some
concept is
there.
someone who ascends socially. So
Okay.
anyway, yeah, so I have that little side podcast. It's like just a fun side
That
gig,
is fun.
Anyway, the point is this. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to feel like person that you're listening to week in, week out is
Yeah.
actually someone that you are connected to, and that like you start to imagine like if only I got to actually talk with them, they would see that
Yeah.
we're very similar and
Yeah.
we'd probably become friends.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know. I have the same thoughts about lots of podcasters, but another topic that we covered was the fans and listeners of Crappens and how before your live shows they'll be like the meetups at 2 and then the show's at 8 and then by 9 people are almost throwing up in the aisles. People are so wild at those shows and they are
They
screaming out like
are.
do
It's great.
Ramona and all this. Um and I will say it used to be because you guys used to post your live shows, as your episode, which was so fun, especially if you've been to one, you can really see because you guys usually sit behind a table and you have props, and it's very fun. But it used to be the audio was so hard to listen to because of the people screaming. But somehow you
Yeah.
guys figured that out and blocked out the audience.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that because that's
Yeah.
always been an issue. I think part of it is that maybe the venues have actually improved in terms of knowing how to record podcasts.
Yes.
Perhaps,
To
maybe.
not get
I'm
the
not
whole
sure.
room just to get the audio.
I
Yeah.
think in the beginning, when we first started touring, like really no, there were not many podcasts that were touring. Like there were podcasts that
No.
were doing live shows. I'm not sure how many podcasts were doing what we were doing. I'm not saying we
Yeah.
were like the only ones. Like we invented touring, but like I don't, in 2017 when we were going to like rock clubs to do podcasts, or in
Yeah.
early 2018 going to like the Bowery Ballroom, like that was like not a thing at that time.
Yeah.
And so you'd have these audio guys who were like, "Oh, you're a podcast man? Like, okay, like whatever." And they would just like record shitty audio. Um, Not because they were bad at it, but I think that they just were like used to dealing with like a band, and a
Yeah. They
band
also didn't
has very
understand kind of
different
what it was.
requirements.
Yeah.
But now I think
Interesting.
maybe they have more experience. Maybe we have more experience. Maybe equipment's gotten better for recording this shit. I have no idea, but I'm really happy to hear that the audio is a little bit better for you because yeah, people are wild at our shows, and it's great. Like I love the fact that if you come to a Crappens show,
Yeah.
it is like full energy from everyone. And
Yeah,
it's like high energy. It's not like a polite affair where people are sort of like smiling and sitting nicely. People are engaged and loud, and it's the best.
it's really great. It's like being at a Countess Luann show. People are just crazy. People are just crazy, but it's because they're such big fans and they're like so excited. But you did at that time, and I bet you don't do this anymore. But when I saw you at early 2019 after the DC show, when I stalked you about coming on this podcast, my
Yeah,
other podcast, you guys were like going out to the bars afterwards. But I don't think you could do that now. I
we
think
don't
you'd
do
be
it anymore.
mobbed. Yeah, I think you'd be
We
mobbed.
well, we used to do it like after every show. People would be like, "Where's the after party?" And we felt like if we didn't do it, like we'd be letting everyone down,
Yeah.
and that like people would get angry at us, and that people would start writing things on Reddit like they're too
Oh yeah.
big for their britches. Da, 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 da. We got like really. So we were always like very like we wanted to. It was like fun for us. Fun. You go out, we're like, oh my God. You walk in the bar, people cheer, and then
Yeah.
everyone talks to you. And it was so fun. It wasn't like we just did it purely because we were afraid of getting in trouble, but there was also a sense like there were some days where I would be like, I'm just really exhausted. It's like I just got off work. I just want to go to the hotel
Yeah. You just
and
got off
like
the
go to
stage
sleep.
and like being on.
And it's like it's like I don't always want to just step into a room with a lot of people and people are forcing shots on you and everything. And but like
Mm,
I have to do this. I have to do this. Otherwise, like they're gonna turn on us. And I think one thing is that first of all, after the pandemic kind of I think it ended that expectation, because it was still like for a little while there, it was like just the idea of being in a room with like 150
yeah.
people in
Yeah.
close quarters was like a little uncomfortable anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I've been doing a lot of work on myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've been going. I started to. Since I saw you last, I started taking therapy, and I have or going to therapy, and I learned that it's actually like really totally okay to
Mm-hmm.
set a personal boundary where you say, if I don't want to go out,
Yeah.
I don't have to go out, and people I think will respect me for my decision for being true to myself of what I want in that moment. And it's not a disrespect to anyone. It's just more like I gotta. I'm dead. I just need to go back to the hotel. And I think
Yeah.
it's
It's
been
okay
really
to say
great.
no. Yeah. It's okay to say
It's
no. Yeah.
it's okay
It's
to say,
okay.
and we still go out, we still do after parties and stuff, but it's been really wonderful just having a sense of like it's okay. You don't have to do everything for everyone. Like you can say, hey, this is not for me tonight, and like no one is going to hold it against you, and everyone will
No.
totally support.
No, some of those shows I imagine take a lot out of you because you're doing, you're on stage, you're performing, you're doing all these voices and a lot of physical stuff. And then, yeah, I think that would be rough. And then you got to go out and still be on, you
And
know.
like a lot of times we've traveled, we've just flown in that
Yes.
morning.
Yeah.
You got to take these notes. You got to show up for sound check. Got to do a VIP meet and greet, which is already
Mm.
very much like you're you're saying hello to like 80 people. You're standing there for about an hour, and then you've got to like pack up everything. You got to get this. You got to close out with the venue. You got to sign papers, and then like that tomorrow you got to catch a flight. You got to do
And
it
do it
all over
again.
again.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
like the idea of like, oh, and now got to go to a bar where there's gonna be like a lot of drunk people who are like, like I would say that like 99% of people at the after party are just like awesome. They're just
Hmm.
so awesome and so
Yeah.
cool. Actually, 100% of the people are awesome, but there's always like one or two people that are wasted, and then they just follow you around, and then they like spit in your face, like not like angrily. They're like, "Hey, what's going on?" And like all this stuff spews out of their mouth onto your face. They interrupt and they tell the same story 5 times over. Like,
Hmm.
can I just say something? Andy Cohen, what's up with Andy Cohen? And it's like I gotta go home. You
Yeah. I
know?
got to go. I got to go. Yeah. Somebody help me. Um, okay. That literally, there was like four more bullet points about low tolerance for sloppy drunk people, but we covered it.
Well, I mean,
Um,
that's the
yeah.
thing that I have. That's the
You
thing. It's
still
like
you still have
when
it
you
since 2019. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, what's been great though is though I've realized I don't have to put myself in that situation,
Yeah.
because it's one thing when you just like go out and you're like getting drunk or whatever, and then like someone's sloppy there, but you're kind of sloppy too. But when you've just gotten off work and someone is like way farther ahead of you and
They're
you're
8 hours ahead of
exhausted,
you. Yeah.
you're just
Yeah.
like, I'm like, girl, I can't do this with you right now. I can't. I want to go home. I want to watch a board game video right now.
Oh. What, I was trying to remember what was the start of the "Is Ariana Mad at Us" song?
The start of it was there was some tweet that she
Oh,
responded to.
okay.
Someone tweeted at her and at us, and then she responded, and we couldn't tell what if she was mad at us or not. And I was
Yes.
bored, and I made like a jingle on GarageBand where I went, "Is
Yeah.
Ariana mad at us? Is Ariana mad at us?" And I think I played it literally only like 2 or 3 times ever, and it like that is a thing
Well,
that just has
I know
lingered.
it. I don't you've had to have played it more than that because it's in my
Yeah.
brain.
But it's
Yeah.
definitely considering that how much we will drive a certain joke into the ground and then some over the years. Like
Yeah.
that one really has not been. That is not a clip that we play that often.
It's pretty good though, because given, the rise of Ariana,
Yeah.
who
So
knew?
far, I don't think she's mad at us, so I
Okay,
think it's
good.
good.
Good. Um, Bethany. Okay. So I had asked you a question in 2019 about Bethany, like, because we were talking about Bravo Labs having a sense of humor about your
Right.
imitations of them and saying, probably Bethany wouldn't think it was funny. Plus, also you guys did it in tandem. You would do Bethany and Ronnie would do Bethany at the exact same time to show how frenetic, and then everything ends with Skinny Girl. Um, have you ever had any run-in with Bethany ever?
No, except last night in my dream. I did have a dream last night that I met her and she was like really awesome and she was funny and she got the joke and she's like, "This is really funny. This is hilarious. I love it. I love these impersonations. You guys are actually like really good at what you do." But of course, that's just a dream because I don't think Bethany would ever act like that. There was a part of
No.
me that was hoping Bethany would be at the iHeart Podcast Awards because we were actually nominated in the same category as
That's
her.
right. That's right. Oh my
And I was
gosh.
hoping, I was like, maybe. But no, I've never, ever, ever seen her in real life, encountered her, heard from her. The only interaction that one could possibly say that we ever had was last year when like the reality reckoning piece hit and then
Uh-huh.
Andy Cohen wrote and he posted an emoji on an Instagram video I had done and then he did like a laughing emoji on a video
Uh-huh.
I made a video that was basically mocking the reality reckoning and he did like a
Mhm.
laughter emoji and then she's like so now Andy Cohen's like laughing at this. It's like, so you're like laughing at racism because there was a podcast, some sort of like podcast called Watch What Crappens or something like that, and they posted this thing and he's laughing at it. So I was like, Bethany has mentioned us. So
That's right.
that was the closest. See, I could do a
Okay.
solo podcast. I just spoke for 5 minutes about once you asked, has Bethany ever interacted with us? And I could have just said no. And
But that
instead I
wouldn't be
talked
as
for five
good.
minutes.
That wouldn't be as good. Do you okay, remember back in 2019 you were doing the Real Housewares of Kitchen Island,
Yeah.
the animation?
Yeah.
Where does that live if people ever wanted to see it?
It's on YouTube.
Oh,
I just kind of fell off. I did that thing where it was so fun to do them, but then my scripts started to become a little too ambitious, and then every new episode, I would layer in more and more details into the animation, which was because I'd get so into it. But then what happens is then the process of making them takes longer and longer, and then eventually it's like you just start putting it off because it's too much work. It's not like a
yeah.
fun thing you can just do anymore, which is a shame because I had so much fun. I think I've done about like 14 or 15 episodes and it became the other problem is that they became serialized. Originally it was just like little vignettes, but it
Yeah.
became serialized and it was like the Carol Radziwill character was run over by a car and who did it and they're
Wow.
trying to get to the bottom of it, and then she was in a wheelchair and Bethany was taking care of her and then it was a whole thing. It
I
went
would
way
I
too
would rec
far.
I would recommend people looking that up. It was
Yeah,
pretty
take a look
funny.
at it, everyone.
And the podcast that you mentioned that you loved, which was Game Brain,
Yeah.
and that's now you're a part of, Danny, Taylor Strucker, Jackie
Mm-hmm.
Schimmel, and of
Yeah.
course, Ira Madison, the third with Keep It, which of
Keep
course is
it.
also huge. I met Ira with you at Countess Luann's show.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, he would never remember me. I met him for 4 seconds, but I was always, whenever something happens with him, I'm like, ooh, I met him one time with Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good old Ira.
He's killing it.
He is
Killing it.
killing it. Killing
Killing it.
it. Yeah, his show's doing very nicely, I think. I mean, he just won an award. I think he won an Ambie.
Mhm.
I think he won the Impact Award for Ambie. So congrats to Ira. Good job.
Well, what would you say has changed in podcasting as a whole in the last 5 years since we last talked? I mean, so much has changed, right?
So much has changed. I think that we've just seen a continued growth of these podcast studios and networks and consolidation of not necessarily power, but ability to circle the wagons around the industry. I
Mhm.
think that I used to always tell people that if you want to start a podcast and make it successful, just stop dragging your feet. Like, don't worry about the name. Just start recording, start developing your voice, start like building your audience because every day that you don't do that, then other people are doing that. So I would say you just got to start recording. You got
Yeah.
to be consistent. You got to find a consistent schedule.
Yeah.
That way your audience can sort of build a routine around you. And I still believe in all those things, but I don't know if that necessarily leads to success anymore. I just feel like these, podcasting has become big business,
A
and
absolutely.
it's like if you want to really break through at the podcast, I think it's really hard to do it grassroots these days. I think you can still do it, but I think it requires so much effort. There's constantly these new podcasts, new shows coming down the pike from, Spotify or Wondery or
And they're
iHeart, like,
huge shows with huge production value. Yeah.
and with celebrities a lot of times. So it's really hard to push through. And we saw it happening in 2019, but I think we've continued to move even closer to the movie studio model in terms of access and platform.
Mm.
So I think that Ronnie and I are super lucky because we were able to really grow at a time when an outsider podcast could grow. And I think it's just really hard. It's really hard to bust through these days.
But are you guys with Wondery now?
Yeah.
You are, yeah. I
Hmm.
remember when I think you guys put out just like a regular episode on the public feed and you had a Wondery logo and people lost their
Yeah.
minds because they were like, because you hadn't announced anything about it yet. You're like, uh-oh, I guess they put the new artwork up. It's not the
Well,
new
I
artwork,
mean,
it's one little corner. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we knew the artwork was going up. We didn't think anyone would care. Like
Oh,
we were on Acast, we were on Midroll. Like
yeah.
we've moved company to company, and no one has ever said anything or cared. But Wondery, there were people like, "Oh my God, Wondery!" But like,
No, I joined Wondery Plus because you guys are on there and My Favorite Murder was on there and now they're not. So I'm
they're
like,
not.
oh, I'm staying on it. I'm staying on it for you guys though.
Well,
And
thanks, Mary Payne.
Smartless. Smartless is on
Oh,
there too.
Smartless.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, I see. We're not big enough to get onto Smartless. Someday we'll get on there.
You just got to
We're not
meet one of the
famous.
guys. You got to meet one of the guys and then
We have
have
to
them
be
have
famous too, right? They only have
there's
famous people on there, right?
yeah, but some famous people I've never heard of in my life. I mean, it's a famous person, but I'm like, what are they famous for? They're a brain scientist. Who cares? Yeah.
So how do I become friends with them?
So you got
Let's
to
see. I did
find,
it with Game Brain. I did it with Game Brain. I could do it
yeah,
with Smartless.
yeah. If you got to be friends with one of them, and then they invite you on because one of
I
them
I
has to
don't.
know you.
I'm not good at being friends with famous people. I'm like,
Mm,
there are certain gay people who are so good at becoming friends with famous people. Like they just are like, they immediately like famous people are like, oh my God, we love this gay person. They just like like there's certain like I want to be a gay guy that gets adopted by a famous person, but no
I
famous
know.
people want to adopt me. I think I'm
Danny
just
Pellegrino kind of got adopted by Andy. That was nice.
well, because Danny is so lovely. I think that the difference is that Danny is lovely, and I don't
Well,
know
you're
how
also
lovely I am. I
you're
don't think
also
I truly am lovely.
Danny is just so he comes across so like, oh shucks. And then sometimes you'll listen to his podcast. I'm like, okay, Danny.
Yeah, no, Danny has an edge to him, which is I
He
think that's
does.
I love that.
But it's
He
with such a sweet voice.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
yeah, Danny is the sort of person you always want to bring him around to something, whereas I think that I'm just more like I don't know. I think I've got I don't there's something about me that I think is not I don't think I fit necessarily in the boxes that sometimes like people think of like a gay person. in the sense that
Mm.
like there's certain kind like if you're like a fabulous Yas Queen gay, like
Yeah,
women
you
love
yes queened
that.
me earlier today. You
I did
yes
Yas
queened
Queen
me.
you.
Yes, and I was
I was
like,
trying out
trying
a
it
new
on.
personality.
Trying it on. Yeah, I was like, "Is this Ben?" Because sometimes Ronnie will type something like that, right? I was
No,
like,
I'll throw in some Yas Queens on text. I'll say Yas Queen, but
"Try it
like
out."
like when a Yas Queen is coming from like within the soul, and so I think that like when you're not like that, sometimes I think that people don't know what to do with you. But you're gay, but you're not like saying Yas Queen.
But
I
now
don't
you're
know if I can adopt
sewing.
you.
Now you're sewing, so maybe that'll help
I am
out.
sewing.
Maybe a fashion.
I am sewing, so maybe that's gonna yeah, maybe that will, pun intended, move the needle for me
Love it.
in gay adoption by a celebrity.
Oh, do you think that you, as far as like the podcasting has changed, don't you think like the video aspect, like you guys back then in 2019 definitely weren't doing videos for everything.
Yeah.
I think you were just doing videos like for your Patreon.
Yeah, we did videos here and there. But yeah, video is a thing because we started doing video. It's fun. And also we were like, oh, theoretically we could like then repurpose this and put it onto like social media as like a
Yeah.
little clip, but then it gets people to want to watch and listen and whatever. Da, da, da. Maybe we could do something that's a bit viral. But now we just do it. We still put up our clips and they're still fun.
Yeah.
And I actually like being able to see Ronnie's face when we record. You can sort of see, like, I can see his eyes if he gets distracted by something. Now I'm like, okay, he got a text that he needs to tend to, so maybe I'll just keep on talking right now, so that way
Mm.
he can tend to that or something like that. So it's actually just really helpful. Or if I can see that he's trying to say something, I can, like you just try not to have as many interruptions, ideally. Whereas if you don't see someone you don't know, and there's a lot more crosstalk. Although I'm
Yeah.
such a big interrupter these days that nothing can stop me. Nothing can stop me from barging in.
Next thing you know, he's going to have a solo podcast called Just Ben.
Just
Just Ben. Just
I'll no
Ben.
Ronnie will have a solo podcast, and then I'll have a side podcast that just interrupts the solo podcast, and you have to play both at the same time.
It's very going to be very breaking edge of podcast technology. It's going to be,
It's the
yeah.
next. That's what's changing podcasting, the interrupting podcasts.
Mhm. Oh my God. Well, what did happen is you guys won a big award, and now for 1 year, nobody can say anything to you until next
That's
year.
right.
Somebody takes
That's
your crown.
right. Yeah. Yeah. That was honestly, it was super cool. That was like, I have, sort of going back to that idea of an outsider podcast, or even like weaving in with this idea of like, oh, I'm not famous, so I can't go on smart lists. I really, for many years, I had a complex that we were not really treated with, it's not respect. I always felt like we were respected, but I always felt like if there was like a podcast festival, no one would ever turn to us, because it's like, oh, you just recap Bravo. Like you're not like two guys wearing flannel who are like waxing on about, you know, something in Brooklyn.
Mhm. Beer.
But beer or something like
Beer.
that. Like
Mhm.
we just were not cool. We weren't like something you'd hear on NPR. And so
Mm.
I was always like mad that we weren't invited to shit. And then we started getting invited to shit. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I can't be mad about that anymore. It's like, but we don't win awards. People don't give us respect. I was like, okay, but now we won an award. So I don't have anything to complain about anymore, which is really hard for
What's
me.
next? What's next? Getting on smart list. That's next.
Getting on smart list, that's my new thing. But to be
Yeah.
honest, what I meant this really actually in a sincere thing, which is that it actually felt really good to get recognition. It felt really
Yeah.
good after all these years to feel like, do people really like to feel like the larger podcast community, like the intelligentsia of podcasting, like we could not get an article in the New York Times to save our lives. Like we are definitely, there are going to be no think pieces about Watch for Crappens, but to know that whoever voted on the iHeart Awards, it was not a public vote, so I don't know who it was that got to vote, but it was really cool to get that recognition from, I imagine, the industry. And
Yeah.
for me, it was actually an incredibly meaningful moment.
Yeah. I thought it was great. And I loved how you guys had to do like a runway walk at the end. It was so
Yeah, that was
funny.
fun. That
Yeah.
was great.
See, that would have
Ronnie
been the
served such good face.
oh,
See,
he was. He was
I was
smizing. He was
trying.
doing all the things. Yeah.
I was like, yes, queen. This is a sincere yes, queen right now.
All right, we're gonna make this happen for you. You're gonna become a yes queen guy. We're gonna
Yeah.
yes try it out next time you talk to Ronnie. Just start off with the yes queen and see his reaction. He'll be like, "Are you okay?"
I have to, here's the thing. Sean Hayes is not a yes queen gay, actually. So I just have to,
I don't think so.
no, he's not
No.
a yes queen gay. So I just have to, I just have to somehow befriend Sean Hayes through gay circles. And
Yeah,
I think then we'll be good to go.
I think. I mean, he lives in L.A. You're gay. He's
We're
gay. You got
gay.
to run it.
He's gay. I'm gay.
You got to know all the same people, right?
We're pretty much friends now,
I
right?
mean, you've got those things in common.
We could do this. We could make it happen.
Yeah, I think so. If it happens, you heard it here first, everybody. You
Yeah.
heard it here first. All
Yeah.
right, tell everybody what is happening on Crappening. So bad.
I'll tell you what's happening.
Yeah,
Um, we are doing a show for Netflix. It's a joke.
yeah.
That's going to be a month, basically. I don't know when this is going to air, but May 3rd, that's going to be in Hollywood. It's going to be at
Okay,
the Kookaburra Lounge, which is a new comedy club, which we're really excited about. Our friend is opening it, and it's going to be fun because it's kind of a smaller venue, and it'll be fun to do like a really fun, high energy small show, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
And then in late May, we're going to do our first European shows ever, which I cannot wait for. Doing a show in London and then Dublin and then in Birmingham, and it's like literally
So great.
so excited. And then we're also gonna go. We're just gonna be tourists. We're gonna
Yeah.
go. We're gonna romp around Europe for a few weeks, and then we we will go back out on the road to do an American tour probably in the fall.
Okay.
That's what we've been talking about. We don't have any dates. We don't have any information. It's just like that is the plan.
Okay.
So everyone will have to keep an eye out on that for that.
Well, you'll come to DC and hopefully we'll be
Oh,
in
we
town.
always DC. Our two best markets in terms of where we have the biggest crowds are New York and DC. New York,
Yeah.
like those are our biggest shows of all time. I've been in those two, so we will always, always, always come to DC.
I've been twice. The last time I couldn't come because I think we were at the beach. I think it was in August, and I can't give up the beach even for Ben and
No,
Ronnie.
you could
No.
not. You should not give up the beach for
Mm-mm,
anyone.
mm-mm. But if you're coming in the fall, that works out for me. So that'll be good for
Good.
my schedule.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what we were thinking about. We're like, what is the best chance that we can get Mary Payne here? So
To
I'm
get real
excited.
drunk and yell from the audience. Yeah.
I mean, when you flashed us from your seat, that was a little distracting.
I know. Nobody wants this 50 plus year old lady flashing anybody.
A 43-year-old lady
Mm,
flashing someone.
absolutely. Now that's something to see. This one, not so much. Now, I've been trying very hard not to be distracted the entire time by my own face behind your face.
Do you
So
want
I'm
me to take it down? I can
so
take
I'm
it
gl-
down.
I'm glad that we're finishing up because I've been a little
Oh, I'm
cross-eyed
sorry.
looking at
Here,
myself.
look.
Put up
Well,
put
we
up your
could. We
fake
could.
background.
Here,
Oh,
here's
there we
my
go.
fake office.
I love your fake office. One time we
I
talked, I was like, "Wow, you really upped your game there."
don't you love it? I also have let's see. I also have this, which is this is actually just a traffic circle in Huntington Beach, California that I put up one day, and it was surprisingly really fun to watch when we were podcasting. Just
Oh, it
cars going in a
moves.
circle. Yeah, it's cars in a circle. Is this like not the most fun thing to watch?
Yeah,
Just
nobody ever
little
crashes
cars.
or anything. They just
No, that would be the dream. And then actually, there was one day where we put up a live cam from a bar. Let's see if we can find
Is
that.
that a live shot, really?
This is a live shot. This is a webcam from Huntington Beach. I've got an underwater cam. Let's see.
Okay.
This is a webcam. This is a live webcam right now of like a coral reef. And then this is Caribbean. What's this one? This is okay. This is Elvis's. So on Roni, last season they went to a bar called Elvis's, and Elvis actually has a webcam up. And what's great about this is sometimes you see these are people who are actively see they're getting drinks. Like a waitress is going out
Yes,
to get an
uh-huh.
order and then going
Mhm.
back, or maybe a waiter.
And they're like, "Who are
And
those rich people on the boats back there?"
I have
Yeah.
to tell you, one of the most fun things we had an episode once where Ron and I put this up in the background for some reason, and we just kept on getting distracted by the people, and like it was fun just to recap the people on the
what's
webcam.
going on that webcam. Yeah,
Look at that. You got this
it must be the
person.
afternoon, right? Because people have gone in, they've gotten drunk on the beach, and they've gone inside.
Yeah, I think this is probably your time zone. Right? Yeah, this is it's probably about 3 o'clock.
I feel like
Looks like a
you're,
great day to be there.
I feel
I know.
like
I
you
feel like
were,
I should
you
touch
were,
her.
yeah, I feel like you were touching her inappropriately.
Yeah, that's more. I'm just nuzzling this man's face right here. Doot, 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 doot. It's fun.
Oh my God. Well, for people that are going to get to see this on YouTube later, they're going to get quite a treat. Quite a
They
treat.
will. Well, that I was trying to give some visual only exclusive content for you.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, it's better than my giant head. I was getting distracted going, is my head really big? Or
No,
the
no.
picture is,
I
yeah.
had to blow it up to make it fit the ratio, and since got blown up, and then I was obscuring part of your face, so it sort of made it look that way. It's a great
What,
picture of you.
what do you record on?
Um,
StreamYard?
StreamYard, yeah.
Okay. So I too could do this because I have StreamYard. I too could put up a webcam.
So, well, the thing is, so I actually have it's a webcam. If you want to see what if you want to see what's really going on here, I have a green
Okay.
screen. I have an
Yeah.
active big green screen behind me.
Right.
Ronnie was like, Ben, you got to get a green screen. So I was like, okay, I got a green screen, and now I play with it all the time, and I
So I
just
see
stick it up
here,
behind me.
yeah, I can add video clips. It
Well,
says,
what I work with OBS also. So there's a software called OBS.
okay.
So what you do is you run your camera into OBS, and then you
Mm-hmm.
apply a filter that keys out a background. So in this case, it keys out the green, and then
Okay.
you can add in video sources. Like this is YouTube. You can add in
Wow.
images. It's such a
You've
great
got it
choice
all
here.
set up. This is what we were doing in what we were trying to do when we were in.
Do you think this will be good enough to get me on Smartless?
Yeah,
Oh,
look at
look at
this.
you. Look at us in Hollywood.
We were in Hollywood. Where Ingrid and I recorded together, but it was just the two of us sitting on the bed, like together with one microphone, and we couldn't get it to work. But I mean, listen, when I do TLC,
Here we are on TLC.
here we are in
It's
prison
like
because I
it's
I
like
cover
being
a
a
lot of
kid,
prison
right?
shows. Yes, yes, I cover
This
a
is to me
lot of
the
prison
equivalent
shows.
of like picking up the camcorder, like it being 1986, and someone has a camcorder, and there's like the fade in, fade out button on it, and you're like, say hi, mom, and then it like fades to dark, to
Yeah, or they
black. You're like,
zoom in real quick and zoom
wow,
out. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh, it's so fun.
We're just little Steven Spielbergs in the making.
Yeah,
Wow. Except for when you got me with all that OBS and no, you lost me
no,
there. If I can't put
well,
it over here on my little board, it's not going anywhere.
that's okay. That's okay.
Okay. Everybody make sure that you are listening to Watch What Crappens and you could follow them on social media. Everything is Watch What Crappens on social media.
Yeah, Watch What Crappens on IG. Actually, Twitter is actually What Crappens. There's not
Oh,
enough space for Watch What Crappens,
mm,
but you can just Google. It's really easy to find us, and I'm at Ben Mandelker on all the platforms. So
all the platforms.
check it out.
And you're verified. We talked a couple of years ago.
I'm
You're very
verified.
upset about not being verified. And I
I
said, I
was
don't
very.
think you really care. And you were like, actually, I do really care.
Here's the thing. It's like I am. I've. This is like it's like I wanted to be in festivals. Then we got invited to South by Southwest. I'm like, I want to win an award. We won an award. It's like I want to get verified, and I got verified. So I really am running out of things to complain about.
We'll have to make Smartless happen.
I,
We'll have to
I
make Smartless happen.
the truth is, I'm actually very, very happy. I feel really lucky that our podcast has really flourished, and that all these, like, I joke about the things that I don't get to complain about anymore, but it actually means something. It's significant that I don't have these things to complain about anymore, and I'm really
That's right.
grateful that people tune in and listen to us, like day in, day out, and really, I would not be able to to have these experiences of going out onto a big stage. It's like who gets to do that? That's wild. So I'm really, really, really grateful. And here I am talking about like, you know, after parties and this and that. Like it's so wild to think that we even have that we even
Yeah,
have the ability, the potential to do a big show on a stage and go out and go to a bar where there could be like 100 people who just are so happy that you're doing what you're doing. It's like it's really, I'm incredibly grateful for it.
Yes. Well, you guys are very funny and you deserve all the awards and you deserve to be on Smart List. So we're going to make it happen.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, Ben.
Bye, Mary Payne.